Hi everybody, it's David Porter, and today I want to talk about a unmentionable topic: sex offenders, rapists, and pedophiles. They are considered the most reviled of all criminals. Even other criminals will not tolerate their presence or give them any respect. There are many myths and misconceptions about them perpetrated by the media, which do not concur with reality. A typical rapist is not a pervert in a raincoat hiding in the bushes who jumps out at a young woman walking through the park at 2 a.m. Yes, that can happen, but it's actually very rare. The pedophile is not a creepy weirdo in a raincoat hanging around schoolyards and bus stops, plucking unsuspecting children off the street. The stranger danger stuff is so ridiculous and so much nonsense, and it teaches kids to be afraid of strangers when the majority of pedophiles and the majority of sex offenders, the majority of rapists, are well known, or at least peripherally known to the victim. The chances are, if you're going to be sexually assaulted, it's going to be by a coworker, a neighbor, a friend, a family member, a classmate. It's going to be by someone that you know them and see them every day, or you at least know their name, or you recognize them. It's probably not going to be a stranger. That's actually statistically very rare. The FBI estimates, and these estimates have held true for decades, that roughly 2/3 of all major crimes, that includes what they classify as major crimes, including sexually based offenses, are perpetrated by an associate, by someone you know, friend, family member, neighbor, coworker, classmate. And that's very, very likely a lowball figure. It's probably much, much higher than that due to underreporting. Pedophiles are going to target children they know. Very likely it's going to be a coach. It's going to be an extended family member. It's going to be a neighbor. It's going to be a friend of the family. You do get stranger predators, and typically they're going to be coming to your children through the internet, through chat rooms. And here's something important to know, for parents to know. The most common question for a pedophile who's in a chat room, the most common question for them to ask a child is, so how do your parents get along? That's the most common question. A study is showing this, at least one study is showing this. That's the most common question. Why do they ask that? Because they're looking for a victim. They're looking for a child who is alienated from their parents, who is unable to communicate with their parents, and it's an opportunity. Oh, your parents fight all the time and argue, your dad drinks. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, my parents fought all the time too. My mother drank. I know what it's like. Empathy, common ground. They groom children. It's called grooming. They call it dating or courting in their sick world. They will entice the child by increasingly intruding on boundaries, and then set up a meeting. And the first meeting in the pedophile's mind is going to be a date. They're going to take the child out for a cheeseburger and a sundae. And lots of empathy, lots of kindness, listening very attentively, giving the child attention and what they think is love that this child may not have gotten in a long time, may not have ever gotten. They're going to be interviewing their victim, testing boundaries. And eventually this is going to progress to touching, to physical contact, an arm around them, a pat on the shoulder. It's going to progress to a hug or a kiss, and then it's going to progress to full physical contact. This is the typical process that a lot of pedophiles use to acquire victims. Now, I want to be clear, I do not see, and if you haven't watched my other videos, I'm a clinician, I'm a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, and I also do related counseling. I see a handful of sex offenders every year. I see more victims, twice as many victims every year, 3 times as many victims every year, because drugs and alcohol are a pre, co, and post-offense behavior for offenders, and majority of adult and teenage victims are under the influence of drugs or alcohol at the time of the offense. Getting drunk and getting high makes you vulnerable. I'm not blaming the victim. I can hear the outrage already starting. I am not blaming the victim. The responsibility lies 100% on the predator. Truth, they are predators. They are going to be looking for someone vulnerable. You are drunk and high to the point where you've lost control of yourself and lost awareness of your surroundings. You have just weakened yourself to the point where you're going to look like an attractive victim. Please consider that. So I see a handful of these people and many more of their victims every year in my job as a clinician. And here is what I've seen anecdotally, and here's what the research says. Treatment can actually make them worse. They do not seem to benefit from treatment. Someone who has these urges and they are ashamed, they're horrified by them, they fight these urges. First, they may never offend in their lifetime. They have a secret attraction and they keep it to themselves. They restrain themselves. They never act inappropriately with a child. And they are married, they have a family, they work, but they have a secret, a horrifying, shameful secret that they hold in, but they never offend. Technically, they're pedophiles. You have ones who lose control and indulge, and I'm not making any excuses for them. They need to be held fully responsible under the law. I do not make excuses for offenders. I hold offenders accountable for their own good and for the protection of the community. They need to be held accountable, even if it was, quote, just a one-time only deal. They need to be held accountable under the full weight of the law. And then you have the ones who are irredeemable. Because the people in those first 2 categories, I want to believe that they can be reached. You can do something about it. As a therapist, you can do something about it. You can pull them back from the brink before they do anything, or prevent them from doing it again. The 3rd category, they're the worst. They have no remorse. They have no shame. They fully embrace their sickness. They embrace their deviance. And they are not only lacking in remorse, they are quite pleased with themselves for what they do. And you have the ones who are groomers, courters, who feel that it is normal to have a relationship, for an adult to have a sexual relationship with a child. They have an entire philosophy around it. You have groups like VERPED, Virtuous Pedophiles. You have groups like NAMBLA, North American Man-Boy Love Association, that advocate sex between adults and children as a normal, healthy practice. I most decidedly disagree with that. It is not normal. It is not healthy. It is deviant. It is sick. It is degenerate. That's my take on that. And then you have the ones at the bottom of the barrel who are predators, real predators. They get violent with children. They are sadistic. They hurt children more than they have to commit their sex crime. And they are often quite pleased with themselves for having done this. They tend to be high up on the sociopathy scale. More about that in another video, what that means. So my point today is these people are out there. There are such a thing as monsters, and it's important for parents to know that these people exist and how they operate to keep your children safe. It is important for law enforcement to know about these people and how they operate so they can be apprehended. It is important for corrections, post-release supervision to know about them, to manage them and supervise them in the community, because guess what? These people are all around us. You've stood next to them in line in the supermarket. They have bagged your groceries. You have walked past them, sat next to them in coffee shops, done your laundry next to them at the laundromat. They're everywhere. The sex offender registry is a well-meaning effort to warn the public of their presence, but when you go to the sex offender registry, and yes, civilians can access it, it's open source, or that's not the right word, it's open access to the public, you're going to find there are approximately 60 of them in my hometown, but that's not an accurate number. There are probably 3 or 4 times more than that. To be specific, there are 60 people who got caught and convicted on the registry. That does not include all the ones that are operating out there, re-offending, and have not gotten caught yet. That does not include the people who have the evidence in their case was weak and they pled out to a non-sexual offense such as simple assault. Therefore, they do not have to register, and that does not include the ones who refuse to register or give false information. So, it's important for people to be aware of this. All right, those are my thoughts on a difficult and unpleasant topic. I was focused more on pedophiles today. I do want to talk about rapists of adults in another video. So, thanks for watching. Please hit subscribe and be safe.